Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I'm going to review a book by Willow Aster called True Love Story. It's been a book that's been on my radar and recommended by you guys quite a number of times, especially back when I think it came out around 2013-ish or so. So it's been on my radar for a hot minute. And in a recent video, I'm not sure which you'll see first, you'll probably see this first, I read a little bit from it and I really liked the direction that it took, especially just in the introductory, because I love books just based in airports, or especially where they start in airports. I've always had this fascination with airports and I've always been in love with the idea of a story starting there. I feel like there's so many different avenues that you could go through for that. I've tried it a number of times myself, haven't been satisfied enough with it, but I am so stuck on the idea of a book starting in an airport. And this did, and so it immediately won me over. This is definitely something I would consider more in the romance genre than anything else. It's really just a story of these two people and their lives that kind of happen parallel each other. Sometimes they're interwoven, sometimes it's parallel. It's a very on again, off again relationship that they have. That I don't think that's giving too much away. I think that's a pretty fairly heavy plot point for that to not be a spoiler. The kind of reader that I am, I like books that are driven more by character than they are by plot. I'm even fine reading a static character. For me, in a nutshell, you guys have heard me say it before, it's the writing that sells me. Did I like her writing? Yes. I thought it was effective. Her passing of time, again, very effective. This definitely spans a long period of time. I wouldn't call this an epic, but you might be more familiar with that terminology, something that spans a good chunk of time and encompasses the same couple characters with the same, I guess, arcing themes. Anyway, this follows the story of Sparrow, which I love that name. That's a fun name. And Ian. So Ian's a musician. They had a mutual friend. It was more of Sparrow's parents, friend of a friend. Anyway, it's one of those couple degrees of separation sort of things, and they end up at a dinner together and they really just have, I don't know, this, I guess chemistry is the best word for it. They just kind of hit it off, and there's definitely interest there between the two of them. And then you find out there's a significant age difference, which I personally, from my perspective, that doesn't bug me that much, but it could lead to problems, which I was pretty sure that's where a lot of the issues throughout the story would happen, and to a degree, but I wouldn't say that was the main plot thickener, if you will. I won't spoil what the real plot thickener is. I think this book is a fair study of reactive circumstances that affect more than one character. A lot of the time I find this one person had this one thing happen to them and it only affects them, and then the other person isn't aware or isn't as affected by it, but just by association they kind of both will be, because the dynamic might shift depending on what the situation is. I find that to not be something that happens frequently in stories, at least as frequently as I think they should, and she really mastered that. Again, just as far as character study goes, I thought it was pretty good. I liked it a lot. But with that, I will go ahead and leave you there as far as the non-spoilers go, and I want to start talking about some details. So if you do want to read this book and you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and leave the video now. I do have some other reviews up and just other content. I'm trying to upload a lot more for you guys, so please go check those out. And I do have a poll right up here or here in which you can vote on what video you would like to see next from me. So without further ado, into the spoilers we go. Something I felt she exceeded at was, I don't want to just generally say descriptions. I want to be more specific than that. It was more how she outwardly showed emotions of characters in the way that they had nervous tics. I know there's a word for it and it's out of my grasp at the moment. I won't sit here and struggle for it. I think you kind of pick up what I'm putting down. I'll give you an example or two. So Ian's smile falters and he looks at the tongs as if he's forgotten why he has them. Just as a way to show he was in the moment. This was when Michael had proposed to Sparrow and he found out about it. And so it was him trying to remain unbothered, really put on this facade, but it still came across that he was taken off guard by it without saying, Ian was taken off guard by the comment. Instead, she says, Ian's smile falters and he looks down at the tongs like he's forgotten why he has them. That is beautiful and amazing. And that's something that I find myself always focusing on in my writing. It's something that doesn't come naturally to me. And so I'm always paying attention for those things. So it's just like the way that she can describe emotions without saying very plainly, this upset me, or he was bothered by, like, it's just very beautifully descriptive. And I'm going to drop it. That's just like the thing that I liked the most about this book. That was really the driving force for me. So passages of time. In the beginning, it starts in the airport, and that's more of where I thought the story was going to mainly hold place in that timeline, and it didn't. And at first, in reading the next bit where it goes to back when she was like, 18, 19, something like that, and the dialogue was very juvenile, and I kept telling myself, it's fine, it's only going to be for a couple chapters until we, like, get the gist, and then it's going to jump back to when they, saw each other in the airport, like that timeline. That did not happen, and I did get over it, but I had that in my head. Like, that was what I had set myself up to expect. And so I dealt with, like, a touch of disappointment there. But a lot of the juvenile dialogue, while I understood where it was and why it was necessary to fit the character, you can't have, like, these, like, I don't know, irreverent conversations, like, from an 18-year-old. Most of us, people aren't like that. I was unfortunately a very irreverent 18-year-old. That's why I was always into poetry, but I digress. I thought it was interesting the way in which she dealt with time in the book. Sometimes it would be as plain as 4 months passed. This was the routine, or it was 2 months before. Like, again, as someone who writes, the passage of time is something I feel that I need to flesh out so much, and for it to just be so simply put and just be like, this is what's happening, move on, I feel like it kept the story from being weighed down and being too lengthy. I do have this on my Kindle, so I'm not actually sure of the length of this book. It felt pretty long to me. The fact that she wouldn't curse bothered me to no end. Like, at first, when she was, like, 18, really conservative, got it, that made sense to the character, and I expected her to develop out of that more quickly. She did in other ways, but not that, and it was just, like, an ever constant bother to me every time she would say bum instead of butt, or literally anything but bum. But I get it was a character thing. So the letters, those were my favorite part of the book. So after he confessed to having an affair with Layla, I think, I felt it was interesting that his motivation may not be the right word, but his reasoning behind why he did it and kind of the stuff that he was dealing with internally. It wasn't an excuse, but it was more just like the understanding of the character because of the way that he was raised. Like, everyone's conditioned in their own way. Everyone's parents fuck them up just a little bit, whether they're well-meaning or not, or sometimes they love you too much or not enough. And everyone has their own shit, right? And so I was really happy that that occurred in this. It wasn't just, oh, I had a weak moment, I don't know what I was thinking. It really went into why he did that. Not as an excuse, but really just like a way to understand the character. And I thought that made for a good place for maybe character development's not so much the right phrase, but more like a character arc, if you follow. But his letters were so sad. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I had to have bookmarked them. A lot of them were like things that personally like hit home with me. And so I was, up at 2 a.m. reading it, crying along with it a little bit at times. But it was just like this fear of like vulnerability that he addressed and this fear of rejection. And he never like spelled it out in it's because I was raised this way. It never seemed like an excuse. Just gonna read a touch from it just for a second. To be known, to be loved. If I could somehow open my chest or my brains or wherever it is that my soul is kept and reveal myself to you in an instant, that you would see me completely, the truth. Not the facts, but the whole truth, the person. This is the one hope I have ever dared to hope for. Yet, in the heart of my heart, I know I have always yearned for more than anything on earth, to be known. Truly, completely, intimately, and still to be loved. And while prosy, and maybe because it's in letter format, I feel like they get away with it a lot better, because if this was spoken, I think I would die of cringe. Just because people don't talk like that so much, unless you are like in some serious turmoil, which he was, so maybe they could have got away with doing that. I'm not sure. I just thought it was beautiful. It was just like pages and pages of letters. And I never once was like, let me just see how long these letters go. I was so involved with these letters. They were my favorite part of the book. Oh, and then her descriptions of the characters in not the physical sense, but again, that like emotional body sense. So like to describe somebody as quiet and watchful. I don't know. There was just a way that she had about that, and I really loved it. Ian was a very relatable character. For me, far more than Sparrow. I love a damaged character, and while she had her own stuff, he was far more intriguing for me. But overall, I really liked the book. I stayed up many a night, quite too late reading it, so I think that's a marker for a good one, in my opinion. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you are planning to read it, if you hadn't already, or if it's been a while, what you remember from it and how you felt about the book as well. So I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.